This is Legal Clinic. This is a program where we educate and enlighten you on your rights and the need to protect them. This program is made possible by the NTA Port Harcourt Network Service, Thav TV, and the International Federation of Women Lawyers Rivers State Branch. This program will air every Sunday at 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m. My name is Ini Irene Pepple. I am the Secretary of FIDA Rivers. Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now I've got like minds in the house to do justice to a very interesting topic. The topic is how can victims, family members and the community and even the government deal with GBV. Last week we talked about GBV, what it means, the forms of GBV. Today we're going to deal specifically what can the victims do, the survivors, what can they do when they encounter GBV. Our guests in the studio today for this session are Mrs. Erefaka Boma. She is the treasurer of FIDA Nigeria Rivers State Branch. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, viewers.
And our very delectable Rachel Princewill. She's the secretary of the publicity committee of the FIDA Rivers State Branch. You're welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, viewers.
Now, the protection against gender-based violence is very crucial and is indispensable, and it is needed to have a safe and serene family and environmental life. And it's in recognition of this need to protect the lives and people against gender-based violence and abuses that states have taken a laudable initiative to enact laws to curb gender-based violence. I want us to just talk briefly. What exactly is gender-based violence? Mrs. Erefaka, can you lead us into this?
Thank you very much. Gender-based violence has been, or is generally interchangeably used with the word domestic violence and violence against women. It has been described by the United Nations as any act of violence that is perpetrated against a person that results in or is likely to result in physical, psychological, or sexual harm to that gender.
Okay, so sexual violence is serious public health and violation of human rights.
Definitely it is. It has been found to have a lot of consequences, sexual violence, a lot of consequences. You find that women and children who have suffered sexual violence come down different signs and attitudes, which shows that it has affected their output towards life generally.
Okay, thank you very much. Rachel Princewill, can you let us know what are the common forms of GBV? We know GBV comes in different ways, but what are the most common forms you come across in your work as a member of FIDA?
Okay, thank you. In my work as a member of FIDA, general forms, or I'll say those basic forms that we have, or I personally have come across in my work, has got to do with rape, defilement, domestic abuse. Now, looking at the meaning of rape by section 357 of the criminal code, it defines it to just penetration. But today, with the introduction of the VAP law, that's Violence Against Persons and Prohibition Law, it has redefined it and expounded to be not just the female that is being raped today in the society, but the male child out there, the boy child out there is being raped, defined that's either by the anus, the mouth. This has gone into the definition of rape today. So it is not just the slapping, the kicking, the beating, the pushing that is just seen as those forms. It's the defilement that happens even with children within the age of 0 to 13 years, 0 to 18 years, which falls within this domestic violence we're talking about, or the gender-based violence. Like I said, it's not just a female thing anymore. We have the boy child being defiled today in the society, being raped through the anus, and that's we have domestic violence, which include all this. It's all inclusive.
So in other words, what we're saying right now is that the concept of rape has been enlarged. So the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law of Rivers State actually also states that rape can occur anally and with an object. So it's not just what the criminal code says. So Mrs. Erepaka, I just want to ask, we have people who have gone through gender-based violence, and if you were to be somebody outside there, what are the signs, what are the warning signs or indications that show that somebody has gone through gender-based violence or is likely to go through gender-based violence? Can you say?
Some of these signs, especially if it has to do with physical abuse, will include bruises on the lips, even on the neck, broken or sprained arms, or wrists. And most times you find such people trying to explain what has happened. You find also bloodshot eyes, where you see a woman in the morning, you left her off in the office, she was okay. By the time she comes back in the morning, you see bloodshot eyes. And when you try to find out what happened, oh, I hit my head somewhere. Truth is, most times such a person is being physically abused. That would mean the person is going through the form of gender-based violence, one of them which my colleague had talked about, the domestic violence. So you find some of these signs to show. Then you also find the person can be moody. You find low output, low self-esteem.
So when people are going to moods, maybe in workplaces, mood swings, they don't on eyeglasses, more makeup, or they are separated from others, those are major indications that that person may be going through some form of gender-based violence. I hope we're taking note of all this so that we can clearly see when gender-based violence, people are suffering gender-based violence, and see what the next time we come back, we'll see what we can do about gender-based violence. Thank you for watching us from back soon.
Will you sit down? Are you mad? Stop! Are you mad?
Oh no! You don't have to suffer such indignation anymore. Don't give room for any form of violence or human rights violation. You deserve the right to protect your right, and you must know your right. So break the silence now. FIDA, NTA and Thav TV will make it resonate through the nooks and crannies of your community. So tune in to NTA Port Harcourt Network Center or Thav TV YouTube channel every Sunday at 12:30 p.m. Equip yourself on your rights. Legal Clinic, promoting your rights for a safer and saner society. Join us.
You're welcome back. We've been speaking about gender-based violence. We've been speaking about what you can do in your family, as a member of the community, what the government can do to help with the prevention and how we can manage gender-based victims. So we have been speaking and we want to talk about now. So, Rachel, it does seem that domestic violence takes such a serious toll on the individual. Can you throw more light? What are the things, what are the indications, what are your experiences?
All right, thank you very much. I like speaking or talking about my experiences because we've seen these victims. They are not victims in the air. And most times when you get to meet these victims or the survivors of domestic violence or gender-based violence, you meet them in this state of hopelessness. that's how they find themselves. They are always in the state of fear, of anxiety. They feel like they're entrapped with this person, with this abuser, like this abuser will come over them. So that state of hopelessness, they can't carry themselves. You can't find them sitting, or standing or moving or working in the society free of anxiety, free of filled with hope. But they move with this hopelessness, this fear, this torture is still in their mind, in their heart, with them, as if this person, the abuser, is coming behind them. So it's filled with state of hopelessness, which I find with them.
Exactly. You find that they come up with depression, symptoms of depression. Find they're carried away, in the midst of people. There is a discussion going on. And all of a sudden the person is lost because the person is thinking about that circumstance where he or she came out from. So you also find they have suicidal thoughts. They even make attempts at taking their lives because that flows from the hopelessness of the fact that they can't come out of that.
To find any help.
Exactly. And because of different negative influences around
maybe with societal standards.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really those who are in marriages, for instance. They're thinking, where do I go to? There's no way out. And so with this feeling of hopelessness comes, which other way out? And then they go towards being suicidal. And then you find they have low self-esteem. Some form of, do I call it extreme meekness? Okay. Extreme meekness. They're even ready for the next person to step on them. It's over.
So it's an all-time low.
All-time.
So the survivors, should I say the victims, lack the courage to carry on, and then maybe
to raise their head up. Because society will make them think that it's their fault that they are going through what they are going through. Times you don't find family support. Going there, marriage is for life. And of course, religion plays its own role. And all of those negative influences will make the victim or the survivors exhibit these symptoms we've talked about: depression, low self.
Basically, for us at the FIDA Center and for us as feeders, we go out there to sensitize these persons. We go out there to do all forms of sensitization. And I'll tell you that education is top of it. Now, education is not just the four walls that we're talking about, but education we're talking about is talking to this person, giving an ear to this person. We try to bring this person. We show love to this person, to these victims who have found themselves in this situation. We educate them that it's not their fault, first, that they have found themselves with an abuser. Maybe the person doesn't even know that he's an abuser, or she or he doesn't even know that he's in an abused relationship. So we educate them. That's what we do first. We educate them. We go all out to sensitize them, to teach them the law, to show that even these abusers, the law will come on them because it's an offense. In section 2 of the VAB law, inflicting injury on a person can take you to 5 years imprisonment or an option of fine of 500,000 naira. So if this person comes to understand that this person who has inflicted on me is an offense or is liable on conviction to go to prison, I think the abuser will refrain from what he's doing. Even spousal battery, which is section 17 of the VAB law, if this husband or if this wife, because it's not just a wife or a husband, it is all inclusive. It could be a woman, it could be a man in the relationship. If they come to know that it's an offense and there's a punishment, there's an imprisonment also that is coming if you continue in this act, I think to a greater extent this person will refrain from doing such acts.
Interestingly, there are laws that criminalize gender-based violence in Rivers State. Mrs. Erefa Kaboma, can you throw more light on this law so that our viewers can understand where they stand?
Thank you very much. The most important law right now that deals with the issue of gender-based violence in Rivers State is Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law, 2020. However, we have provisions of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, especially Section 34, we talked about protecting the rights of people from persons, gender, because this is all inclusive from being subjected to harmful treatments, degrading treatments. Because that's actually what gender-based violence is all about. It could be subtle, it could be direct. That's why we have different forms.
Okay.
So we find that in the VAP law, Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law of Rivers State, you find different forms of offenses that deal with gender-based violence. It might sound interesting or even funny to hear that there's an offense like forced isolation from family.
Interesting. I'm sure our viewers will find that because it happens.
Or separation
Okay.
from family or friends. You find a situation where women are like trapped. Most of the times women, but of course this
It does happen, yes, affects, covers both male and
women.
yes.
So you find that the most common one is where a woman is married to a man, and you find that the man says you can't continue to associate with your family. I want you all for myself. So it's all about just our children, me. Where I say go, that's where you should go to. So I don't want you mixing. In fact, I can tell you that I know someone whose mother has had to go and see her children in another hideout. Her grandchildren.
Okay.
Because the husband has said, I don't want you associating with this.
The other
It's an
spouse.
offense.
Yes, it's an offense.
It's actually an offense, a gender-based violence offense. And if that person speaks up and chooses to report to the authorities, and that man is arrested, and there's proof, he can be jailed for it. There are jail terms provided by the law, and there are also fines. In fact, the fine can go as high as 100,000 naira on conviction for such an offense. We also have forced dependence or economic abuse, where a man or a woman will not allow
the other spouse,
to work. To just sit down. I want to be the one.
So it's a form of control.
Yes, of course it is. In fact, we say it's some kind of narcissist attitude.
Okay.
Where you find that he or she wants to be fully in charge. And of course, we know that a person who is economically in charge is in charge of every other part of that person.
So the spouse is forced to stay in that relationship.
Exactly.
And is going through so much. It's a gender-based violence and the person cannot speak up. So we are telling our viewers that this is a crime and you can even, it's an offense, you can report and then get, so what else? Can you throw more light? Rachel, what?
Yes, thank you.
What other forms?
Just like my colleague has said, the gender-based violence, the VAP Act today has made provision of 25 sections that deals with various offenses. Now, one is most common in the society today, and it's most common, I said, because people do it and just move on and feel it's okay. And that's talking about abandonment, failure to provide necessaries. In our FIDA Center, we have a whole lot of cases that come before us. And at the end of the day, we keep hearing failure to provide necessaries, failure to provide necessaries.
What does this failure to provide, what does it mean?
Now, failure to provide necessaries, we're talking about basic necessaries.
Okay.
Placing food on the table, taking care of this child, sending the child to school. All that concerns
and every child even has rights according to the child rights law. So
our ground norm today, the Constitution talks about education to the child, that the child should have education to the child. Now, if this is being deprived of the child, deprived
yes,
by the father, it's an offense. That child, if that child, just like my colleague says, speak up, comes out to say, I am being deprived. We've seen situations too where children come to the center to report, my father is not sending me to school. My father has the ability, the capacity to send me to school, but has refused to send me to school. If he voiced out today and is being investigated, that father, that parent is liable to a
On
punishment
conviction.
or a term of fine. So these are laws, these are punishment, these are offenses in the verb law. Now, another part which, another offense that is seen today, which some persons take it to with a flip of
With
hand,
levity,
is
yes.
the levity they take it. It's amazing, because sometimes people just say it and move on and think it's not an offense. We're talking about verbal abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse. Now, if you remember, we did say that some signs of this abuse, gender-based violence, can take the person to the form of depression. When someone is being psychologically abused, verbally abused, look at you, you're just sitting down here doing nothing. You keep saying this thing to this person every day. It goes deep down into the person's psychological, it goes down into the person's thinking, and affects the person psychologically. It takes the person to another level. So this is an offense. If found, is an offense. If found, 2 years imprisonment. That's what the law has stated it to be. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. It's been a very interesting session and very robust, I must say. Thank you very much. So I'm sure our viewers will want to know, okay, what happens? What should I do when this happens? What should people do when gender-based violence occurs? Are there steps they should take? Is there anything they can do? What can they do? Can you throw light into that?
Yes, in our work as FIDA Rivers, we've come to realize that a lot of people do not know what to do. And it's the first stop or first step to take when things like this occur. And that's why you find that you have more perpetrators and these things continue to thrive. And so we would like to let the public know, if you're out there right now, you're going through gender-based, any form of gender-based.
As we've described here.
Yes, as I've described. Whether you're a child, whether an adult, whether married or single, whether you're a man or a woman, because we need people to know that we have men who are
more men actually coming. Yes.
To make complaints about how their spouses are treating them or their children.
Yes.
We have men coming in. So we need the public to know, you out there to know, that the first step you should take is to make a report to the police station. I know that a number of us have lost confidence in it, but I tell you,
these are the steps.
This is what to do first.
Make an entry.
Now, make an entry, make a report, go there, especially if it has to do with physical abuse or sexual violence. Ensure you go to the police station.
So maybe like rape or defilement, what should they do in that circumstance?
Rape, defilement, please go with that person. The victim or survivor should go the way he or she is.
Okay, shouldn't tamper.
To the police and do not tamper with the evidence.
Okay, so they need to understand what is the evidence.
Thank you. If it's a case of defilement or rape, you know, whether it's of a child, if it's of an adult, whether male or female, if it's where there's penetration, or even if there's no penetration, there's an injury, a scratch, whatever. Go, don't try to clean it.
Don't take a bath.
Don't take a bath. Don't
Just
go to the police station. Even if you have removed the clothes that is stained with semen or blood, go with it to the station. If you can't, thank God for smartphones. Take a photograph of all of these things, and then when you get to the station, you make that entry. I'm sorry, I have to say this. Where you have a father defiling a child or raping the child, it still doesn't stop you from going to report. It is an offense.
Yes.
So don't say, it's
not a family matter.
No, it's not a family. It's an offense.
You don't settle
against the state, and everybody is owned by the state. So when you go there, they take this entry. You make this entry, make your report, everything that happened. The next step is to go to the hospital. The police will give you a form, medical form, which you should take to a hospital where you will be examined and then treatment taken. But that form will be filled.
Okay.
But that's the second step to take. And then, of course, thirdly, you should reach out to the service provider. Like FIDA is your friend.
NAWOJ, M1.
And you also have the Medical Women Association
of Nigeria.
They are here. They are all here.
Okay. And then we have a last step. Rachel, can you help us with that last step? Most people start prosecution and they leave it. So what's the last step? They should diligently prosecute, I believe.
Thank you very much. I smile because just recent at the FIDA Center, we talk about all of this, and it's strange how people will call us out, go to the police, run out and do the report and the entry, and then at the end of the day, these people compromise.
Yes, we have people saying, I'm no longer interested.
The family has
we have settled. We don't settle those kind of offenses. They are not settled. It's against the state. So they are not settled. So thank you very, very much. All right, we've been talking about GBV and how victims, family and the government can deal with GBV. It is a collective responsibility, and we believe you've been challenged to stand with those who are going through all forms of GBV. For further inquiries, you can contact us via Facebook. Our handle is FIDA Rivers State Branch. On Instagram, you can also hook up with us, FIDA Rivers State Branch. And we have a hotline. If you want to reach FIDA Rivers State, you can call this line 0705 999 77.